Better. Now, welcome to Hypnosis in Action. Today we welcome Farmer Gregie. That's Farmer Gregie Dennis. And Greg, you've introduced yourself to me as both Greg and Gregie. Which is your preference?
Cool. Well, I'm a bit like you, aren't I, Steve or Stephen?
That's
but
it.
You know, you're Stephen these days. And I was born Gregory, and I really disliked that name intensely as a kid. I hated the formality of Gregory, and both sides of my family were very different. So my dad's side of the family were a bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
My mum's side of the family were a bit more formal, and for some reason the Dennis family called me Greg, and the Garton side of the family called me Gregory. Not that I was in trouble, just that's what I got. As I grew up though, and most of my friends called me Greg, I've always been a bit on the small side. Yeah. I've been vertically challenged since birth. Never got very tall. I stand about 5'5". Haven't started shrinking just yet, but I will. And my friends at sport from the age of about 16 onwards just started joking and calling me Little Gregie Dennis. And so I was Little Gregie Dennis, and how you going, Little Gregie Dennis? And that just became Gregie from the age of 16, 18 onwards. So Gregie became my nickname. All my close friends called me Gregie. Okay. Then I DJ'd for a while. I actually did gigs. I did weddings, parties, pubs, races, BNS balls. So I called myself Gregie DJ. And then all of my new friends knew me as Gregie DJ or Gregie. And then, of course, we started doing farm tours. So the logical progression was to become Farmer Gregie, hosting tours on our farm.
Perfect.
So I think it's a good fit for me. I'm very comfortable when people call me Gregie, although quite often people feel uncomfortable calling a Gregie because it's just not a common thing.
Actually, that's my feel. My first thought was that a farmer is a very masculine thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't look at Gregie as being a very masculine name. So,
well, I do have a dominant feminine side. So.
Do you? Okay.
I'm in touch with my feminine, yes.
Good on you. Now, here on Hypnosis in Action, we talk to leaders. Okay, talk to pretty impressive people. I get the feeling, and I may be wrong here, that you are a little bit accidental.
It's true. You know, I would never have really envisaged myself taking the path I have, and life's journey can be pretty fascinating, but I have felt very strongly about educating the masses for some time now, and I've really fallen on my feet telling people about real food, telling people about the importance of the role the farmer plays in providing. And there's this disconnect between city and country. So I guess I'm one of those kind of people who loves to tell the story. I'm not real good at selling a product. Right. I feel uncomfortable in that salesman sort of space. But I love to share my knowledge and my experiences and connect with people, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's in a big group. You know, I'm very comfortable talking to large groups too.
Okay. So how big's the largest group you've spoken to so far?
Well, we do farm tours all the time, and we have had on our farm, we used to have a massive open day every year, and I'm talking thousands of people.
Okay.
A couple of years ago, when the topic of $1 a litre of milk and the price war, everything, it was really hot in the media. We had about 10,000 people on our farm in one day. So I'm up on our makeshift stage, which is our hay trailer, and addressing, you know, a few thousand people, I guess.
Okay.
But then, you know, there's also been conferences. I've got to speak at conferences to groups of hundreds of people, not thousands, and a little bit nerve-wracking, I must admit, when you've got the spotlight on you and you really are conscious of flowing and saying the right things.
So speaking to thousands from your hay trailer is an easier thing to do than speaking to hundreds in a conference?
You know, I'm just still getting a little bit the sweaty palms talking about it now.
Okay.
But it's like nervous excitement. I don't really have an issue with anxiety. I've had some challenges with depression, but we can talk a bit about that later. But you know, so for me, I'm like, it's about the mission and something that I believe so strongly in. So I feel compelled to keep doing what I've started, and right now I'm really enjoying this phase of my life. Okay, so
this phase of your life, can you tell me how you got from there to here?
Yeah, it's ironic, and I now isolate a lot of the most productive and creative phases of my life happening post-depression.
Okay.
So I was diagnosed with clinical depression at the age of 40. I really wasn't sure what was going on. There was no special person in my life that was lost or died at that time, but I had a sense that we were going to lose our family farm.
Right.
And during the process of recovery there and really addressing the cause, not the symptoms, you know, I think too often today we just want to treat the symptoms without looking at the cause. I guess I started to evolve into who I really always was, and that's someone who wants to engage with people and wants to share. I really do want to share my knowledge and my story. So it was only at that point we started to look at the realistic possibility of doing farm tours, which I had thought about for years, but never progressed to that next step. And I was, you know, getting in a better headspace all the time as I was recovering, and I saw the value of reconnecting city with country as farmers continue to go broke Australia-wide financially. So that's where it started, and we literally, June is a pretty cool month for me. Both of my kids are born in the month of June. We're having a chat right now. It's June, but it's also Farmer Gregie's 6th birthday. Farmer Gregie was born in June 2012.
Right.
And it's For Real Milk's 5th birthday.
Okay.
We actually sold our first bottle of For Real Milk in June 2013. So yeah.
That's interesting, because I'm one of your customers.
Awesome. Good to hear.
And if you are only 5 years old, I'm one of your first customers.
One of the early ones.
Yeah,
Excellent.
one of the early ones, yeah.
Excellent.
My wife, we were 5 years ago paleo.
Okay.
Attended one of your farm tours on that type of a thing.
Yes.
And that's when we started buying your milk. So
yeah,
I was there right at the beginning. I'm excited about that.
That's incredible, isn't it? It really is a small world. And then we only reconnected probably about a year ago. After that, when we were networking in Brisbane and meeting different groups of people. So that's good to know, though, Stephen. That's really cool to hear. You know, it's ironic that a lot of what I do when we talk about me talking and educating and sharing my knowledge, I also have developed a massive following on social media.
Okay.
And it's a little bit surreal, but between Farmer Gregie and For Real Milk, and I do Insta and Facebook, and I have a YouTube channel, and I'm still trying to figure out how to tie it all together.
Yeah.
But nearly 30,000 people are following.
Oh, isn't that sensational? That's great.
And I was at Boona Show this morning before catching up with you, and this bloke come and said to me, I've got to introduce myself. He said, you'll know who I am when I tell you my name. And Howard said, g'day. And he's a bloke just like you, very early supporter of For Real Milk, and he's been interacting with me through Facebook for 5-6 years now, like constantly with comments and suggestions, and it's just so much fun to meet people in the flesh who you almost built a rapport with, and you feel like you do know them before you meet them. But you know, I love that aspect of social media, being able to get to know people and then finally meet them. It's cool.
So For Real Milk is 5 years old.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about your family farm?
Yeah, family farm in the scenic rim, just south of Bow Desert. It's our family, Dennis family, have been on the property since 1936, and we've been milking cows ever since then. We've been a dairy farm. We now milk black and white cows. A lot of people still call them Friesians. As a pure breed, they are Holsteins, and they are the dominant dairy breed around the world, really. But we've had many transitions through that time in the way we milk cows. My great uncle Henry and my grandfather Hal Dennis, they used to milk cows by hand into a bucket, and
They didn't have milkmaids?
No, they were the boys were the milkmaids back in the day. They were both young bachelors at the time.
So the Christmas song is false. Is that what you're saying?
I don't.
11 Maids of Milking. Is that what it was? 7 Maids of Milking?
Oh, see, I don't know my Christmas carols well enough.
There you go. Okay, so your grandfather, your great uncle started the farm.
They did.
They milked by hand.
And really is fate that I'm on the farm to this day, because my great uncle Henry was meant to milk cows on that farm, and he got sick not long after moving there. My grandfather Hal, and I call him Hal, I never met him, he passed away 2 years before I was born, but Hal came to help Uncle Henry when he was sick, and Henry passed away of Bright's disease. He was only 29, and so Hal stayed on, kept the farm going. Hal was supposed to milk cows on another property in the same area, but finished up staying on our farm, and 2 years later married my nan, built their house, and that's where we've been ever since.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. My Uncle Ray, my father Darryl, they were both born on the property in the 1940s, are still working full-time to this day in their 70s.
Yes.
And I was also born on the property along with my two sisters and grew up there.
Cousins?
Cousins used to visit the farm all the time when we were kids, which was a lot of fun. Cousins on both sides. I think I'm really fortunate, I've got lots of family and we're all still very close. My father and my uncle have worked together all their life. My mum and my auntie Rose have been on the farm working together since they got married to Dad and Uncle Ray in the late 60s and early 70s. And we still see, our cousins all come and help out on our big open days and that sort of thing. So it's a very, very tight family, really.
Okay, but so are you now the patriarch figure in the family, or are you taking the orders?
Well, I'm the bloke who's happy to have the spotlight on him all the time.
Okay.
In a public space.
Yeah.
I guess my role has really changed a lot. And only 5 years ago, I was literally just a dairy farmer, and we were milking cows, and that was our role. We would just send milk off farm to a major milk company. But these days, I'm doing less and less farm work. I'm a bit of a Clayton's farmer, even though I call myself Farmer Gregie.
You might have to say what that term means. I don't think there are too many people remember what the.
Is that old school?
That's
oldies,
old
we know what
school.
it means.
Yeah.
So Clayton's is like a pretend or not real farmer. And you know what? I still know how to do everything. I mean, I can get in a tractor, and I do share a lot of clips. I'm still working with the cows when I'm home. Still able to do any of the jobs on the farm.
Yep.
But I'm tending to do much less work in that space, in the day-to-day operation, and I'm heavily involved. I'm literally at the moment trying to run 5 Facebook pages and an Instagram and a YouTube channel, and I'm kind of self-taught and trying to figure all that out as I go. So look, it's been a really interesting time for me. While all of this is changing in a big way, and I'm becoming that public figure, I'm consciously working on Farmer Gregie becoming a celebrity farmer.
Yeah.
And that's with intention, because
I'm trying to. Sorry, can I stop you just there?
Yes.
We all know about the celebrity cooks.
Yes.
Are there many celebrity farmers out there? I know there's celebrity gardeners.
Yeah. So not really. I think that. In America, there's a bloke called Joel Salatin, and he's developed quite a large following. But again, his following has probably been more amongst farmers than consumers of food.
Yeah.
My really strong desire is to connect directly with the consumer who buys the food.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing a celebrity farmer as such on a level of a Jamie Oliver.
Yeah.
Or you look at the work of Steve Irwin and what he did for the conservation of life and native animals. I think a lot of people have come to appreciate more after Steve passed the work he's done than while he was alive. Even for me, he was a bit over the top for me, and I'm a little bit more down, a bit more grounded, a bit more down to earth, not quite as crazy as Steve Irwin was. But I mean, behind the scenes, the work he did was incredible, and for me, that's where I really don't want, or I'm not looking forward to any fame or glory that might come with being a celebrity, but I'm comfortable in taking that on board for the greater good.
Okay, what is the greater good?
The greater good is to get people to understand the role that farmers play. So today we're seeing fewer and fewer people living in the country. It's a natural progression. It's an unintentional transition towards the towns and cities, because that's where the job opportunities are. But what's happening in the process of that is that more and more kids are being born in the towns and cities with no connection to the land or where their food comes from. And, you know, I joke about this, but I do a survey all the time. Whenever I'm doing a tour on farm, when I'm on Facebook doing a live, I'll ask people to participate in this survey. And I want you to concentrate on driving now,
I'm
Stephen.
Concentrating on driving.
I ask people, please raise your hand if you eat food. And of course that sounds like a ridiculous question.
It does, yes.
Some people don't even want to put their hand up because it's such a stupid question. But the reality is that 100% of human beings on planet Earth that I've surveyed so far do in fact eat food. Now, it doesn't matter whether you live in the city or in the country. And you are relying, and I don't care if you're a politician or a small business owner.
I thought you were going to come back and say, well, no, you're wrong. There's a lot of you that actually aren't eating food. You're eating out of cardboard boxes.
Well, I do explain that as well. So the food does start on the farm.
Yep.
The farmer is producing the food, and we're seeing people become oblivious to the value of supporting our local growers of food, because food is critical. Now, I'm a big advocate, and I talk about this all the time now. Whenever I do a tour, people just get to listen to Farmer Gregie and his opinions for the duration of the tour, but real food is our medicine.
Yeah.
And you're dead on there. You know, a lot of people are eating food-like substances today. Just because we destroy the stuff and repackage it and put fancy labelling on it does not mean our body knows what it is. We call it food, but it is not food. So we've got to get back to real food, and that's been the driving force behind For Real Milk, doing less damage to the milk. We are constantly getting people telling us today they're not having their normal intolerance or reaction to our milk that they are to a lot of other big company milk. We're just doing less damage to the milk.
Yeah. Okay. So how often do you do these on-farm tours?
It's really interesting. You know, we haven't really promoted with any sort of marketing dollars or promotions through mainstream advertising, and it's just word of mouth and referrals. People who come for the tour just enjoy it so much they tell their family and friends, you've got to go and do this tour. And we're averaging about 5 group tours a week.
Okay.
So we're doing them every day of the week, constantly putting together groups. Sometimes we have coach loads come, sometimes we'll just have multiple groups of individual families.
Yep.
What's today? So yesterday we did a group of homeschoolers.
Oh,
and we
okay.
had 27 homeschool families come for a tour. There was nearly 100 kids and adults.
Cool.
And they all got to see, you know, everything happening right in front of them. And they got to hear a lot of what I talk about when it comes to real food and the choices we make and the lifestyle, you know, the impact it's having on our health and well-being. So it's a great opportunity to share that part of the message. And I'm just looking now at the opportunity to grow the tour beyond just domestic. We've really only focused on domestic. We haven't promoted to the international visitors coming in, and that's a massive market. I mean, our farm is 1 hour from the Gold Coast, 1 hour from Brisbane. So many people are visiting the southeast corner of Queensland from overseas. They're oblivious to the fact that we run tours.
Yeah. So cool. Okay, now you stated earlier on in the chat that Farmer Gregie was born in 2012, was it?
Correct, 2012.
Okay. What did you mean by that?
Well, that was the year, and June is the month, we started to do farm tours for the first time. We became involved, I think it was in its second year at the time, Eat Local Week in the Scenic Rim. Eat Local Week has become a massive destination of multiple venues, and farmers, local farmers in the Scenic Rim, have joined forces with Scenic Rim Regional Council in inviting people into the Scenic Rim to see where their food comes from. Yeah. So we have all these different opportunities. People can come to the Scenic Rim. It's the first week of the June-July school holidays every year, and it's literally a week-long event. So 2012 was our first year being involved with Scenic Rim Eat Local Week. and that was basically when I started doing tours, hosting tours as Farmer Gregie. Yeah.
You, as a man, as a male, have run into some concerns when it comes to anxiety?
Yeah, it's interesting. I find that anxiety and depression are kind of the same but nothing alike.
Oh, okay.
And I've never really been challenged by anxiety.
Right.
Depression for me has been a pretty big challenge. And I was diagnosed at 40 years old, and I've had a couple of relapses of depression. You know, my 21-year marriage ended 21 months ago, and I've been going through a bit of a rebuilding phase in recent times, and as I look back now, you know, even a year ago, 6 months ago, I think, geez, I was still really struggling more than I realised as I'm getting better and better.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the reasons I do speak openly about depression, because I think for a lot of people, they're suffering silently, which prolongs the agony.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes just knowing it's okay to talk about it will speed up the recovery, speed up the healing. I do Facebook Lives now, and as you can tell, I'm a pretty good talker, and you're giving me free license here to talk. But I had a good mate. I did a Facebook Live the other night, and an old mate of mine I haven't seen for a while, going through something similar to me right now, and he reached out through Facebook, said, "Oh, you know, you're inspirational, Gregie, but this is what's happening for me, and I think I just need to talk to someone." And that's, you know, that's tough for me to hear. I'm a bit of an empath, so I do take on board what other people are feeling and what they're going through, but at the same time, I'm actually comfortable to share with them my life lessons, and if it can help up their healing, help speed their healing process, that's awesome.
Okay.
So I did finish high school also on the back of my first bout of depression at the age of 40.
Did you?
I did it externally through USQ Toowoomba, and I was accepted into the psychological science intake in 2011, 2010, but I chose to pursue opportunities on the farm, and I realised at the time that psychology for me might have been a challenge to deal with other people's baggage ongoing.
Okay.
I just don't know that I'm strong enough to do that.
Yeah.
And obviously with your work with hypnotherapy, there's a very strong psychology element to everything too.
It is becoming that way, yes. Where to from here?
Well, I really am getting into a good headspace now, and I've done a lot of that rebuilding and healing on myself. I'm so excited about life right now because I just see I'm on the edge of some really, really big things with Farmer Gregie taking his message further afield. You know, I'm going to be able to talk to people Australia-wide and globally. I'm starting to get invitations to speak internationally. I'm looking at filming a documentary. In fact, have been filming a documentary for 2 years.
Okay.
Haven't figured out how to fund the documentary yet, so we have a lot of really, really good footage archived.
Yep.
And am continuing to film for the documentary right now. I'm also really excited about meeting my one, because I'm going to get remarried. You know, I think some people, it's a big challenge in the middle of your life.
Farmer wants a wife.
Well, it's funny you say that, Stephen. I did actually seriously consider running Farmer Gregie Wants a Wife on my YouTube channel.
Oh, yes.
And something came over me in February this year. We were good to go. We were going to launch this idea and go with it. And I just felt like I don't want to do that now. I think I'm going to meet someone.
Okay.
So it's just interesting. But look, I love talking to people, and I keep meeting the most amazing people, and you know, some become great friends, and some you feel like there might be potential for something else. I'm really an inclusive person, not exclusive. I voted yes, not that I like boys. I mean, boys are great, but I like girls. But I just think that...
If you're going out to an international audience, we better explain that very recently we had a vote for gay marriage in this country.
So marriage equality in Australia became an issue. one of those things that I was incredibly frustrated with, because our government chose to spend hundreds of millions of dollars so that we could tell them what they already knew, which was Australia is okay with gay marriage as a majority. And the poll, the vote that we all had to go and do proved that was the case. Myself, you know, I have close friends and family members who voted no, and we're still friends and we still talk. I'm all about people having difference of opinion. You know, I don't think that we need to all be the same in our alignment of thinking. I think the differences between people make life interesting. So I'm totally cool with agreeing to disagree with people. If I think a certain way on a certain issue, I don't have to convert them to my way of thinking. I just don't want them to try and convert me to their way of thinking, and we'll agree to disagree.
Okay. Let's go back to your farm.
Yes.
How big is it?
The farm is 370 acres. We did used to own a bit more property, which we sold about 10 years ago now. As my dad and uncle got a bit older, the travel between the two farms became a little bit difficult, and we just decided to focus on our home property. So we let the other property go. We are an irrigation farm in the scenic rim, and that means...
What does that mean?
Well, we can use water. We have a water allocation from the Logan River. In our case, Logan River is supplied by Maroon Dam. And
that's the dam that would never fill.
Well, Maroon Dam was interesting. They've built it originally with an earth wall, and there's fears about filling it to capacity because the wall may not stand up to it. So at 100% full, it's really only ever been half full. And they've never addressed the issue of making the wall strong enough to let the dam fill right up. The other challenge as farmers that we've had, that dam was built specifically for farm irrigation in the 1970s, and now, because southeast Queensland is such a popular place to live, we have this influx of people moving to southeast Queensland, and people who live in towns and cities get priority over farmers every single time. So now people in towns and cities are getting priority over that water if it gets dry. We have our irrigation cut off so that they can supply town water. You know, the other crazy thing that governments did, they made a decision in the 80s to stop people putting water tanks on their houses. When here we've got rain falling from the sky that could have been used in the house, and it's just running straight out to sea, while water that's been caught in dams that could be used for irrigation is getting sent through to the towns and cities for town water supply. Some crazy things we do in Australia. Not very intelligent species of human at times.
When did you change over to computer milking? That's what it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, the robotic dairy. Robotic dairy.
Yeah.
So we've been utilising computer software and programs for feeding of our cows on the dairy and a lot of the herd health aspects since early 2000s. And but the robotic dairy is another step up again. It's quite amazing the level of information that is captured every day a cow gets milked. It is a voluntary milking system. We've taught our cows, people aren't aware of this, but dairy cows really are very intelligent when it comes to food.
When it comes to food,
they know where the food is.
Right.
So we give them an allocation of food in different parts of the farm, and they move around the farm according to where the food is. And there's automatic gates that change direction every 8 hours, which means most of our cows voluntarily get milked 3 times a day, every 8 hours. And they will actually be going from one part of the farm to the other. The only way to the next feed is through the robotic dairy. So while they're getting milked, all of our cows get weighed every single day. The milk that comes out of them is measured every day. We get milk qualities like butterfat and protein readings every single day. We get the temperature of the cow. Her body temperature is measured every day. We have a computer chip on the neck collar which counts how many times the cow chews her cud. So cows are ruminants that are actually chewing their cud because they basically swallow their food, then they spit it up and eat it again. And healthy dairy cows ruminate 400 times per hour. So we get this information all on the computer. So
ruminate means chew?
Chew.
Right.
Basically each time they chew their cud, it's counted, it's measured. You know, there's some really big fallacies, and this is another aspect, and I'm one of the founding farmers in a group called Australian Farmers for Climate Action. I was one of 9 dairy farmers from all around Australia who got invited to Canberra, and we lobbied politicians about the impact of climate change. I'm not a skeptic. I don't argue with skeptics about climate change. It's happening. They'll catch up and figure it out when they're ready. And it's just one of those, let's agree to disagree, because it's happening and it's affecting our farms, it's affecting our cows. I just say to people, think about pollution. You know, we cannot keep pumping toxic chemicals and fossil fuels into our atmosphere and into our soils and waterways and think that won't have a negative impact. Because the planet Earth is a living organism. I mean, it's teeming with life. So if it's not safe for us to drink petrol, why is it safe to pump it out there into our world?
Yeah.
You know, we're killing our planet. We've got to stop doing that. So when we think about, you know, it's tough for the farmer these days because we're getting condemned left, right and centre by the people who live in the cities who go on to Google or YouTube and find information that is actually shared by people who live in the towns and cities who don't bother to visit a farm based on research that's done by people who still haven't left university and never grew up or visited a farm. And some of the information that's being made available, like cows are causing climate change, is actually a lie, because what they've done is they've isolated the research, they've captured methane that's been expelled from cows in factory farms, confinement farming, and when cows are housed under stress, they expel a lot more methane.
Now, isn't that interesting? I've never heard that before. And
this sort of information is not getting out there. The other massive issue we have with farming, people don't understand. And now, look, I think a lot of farmers are becoming a bit more green all the time. We're still not quite greenies as such. But, you know, there's a lot of tree huggers out there, and that's fantastic if you want to hug a tree. But what the tree huggers don't realise is that grass does a better job of sequestering carbon than the trees do. So we all just think we need to save the trees so they can save our planet. Well, that's true to a point. But on a farm, in a pasture-based management system where our cows are in the paddock eating grass every single day of the year, because they literally are, every time they eat that grass, as the grass is growing back, it's pulling carbon out of the atmosphere into the soil, building the humus, building the carbon matter in the soil, building the microbial activity, and the water retention of our soils. So the humble farmer who's running cows is doing all of this for the atmosphere and getting no credit for the work they're doing. All people get to hear about is the methane that cows expel. We don't get a counterbalance at the other end of the good work we're doing with our soils and our waterways, our atmosphere.
Right. Okay.
I know, a lot of information to take in, isn't it?
It is a lot of information to take in. Now, with that said, you were saying earlier in the piece, and did I see you on a morning show just recently?
It's true.
With the $1
I probably am already the most famous farmer in Australia, you know, because I have been on The Project and Landline and Today and Sunrise and The Great Southeast and Totally Wild. I was on Play School last month. You watch Play School still?
I don't watch Play School anymore.
That was an awesome little clip. And so, yes, I was on Sunrise and I reshared the clip. And, you know, it is a little bit surreal to me, and I'm always humbled by feedback I get. People telling me, wow, that was an amazing interview and you did so well. And that's where I don't want to seem arrogant, but I do have confidence in what I can do. But that was 2 years ago. That was actually 2 years ago.
That clip was 2 years ago.
And a lot of people were like, oh, that's awesome. There he is. He's on TV again. Keep up the good work, Gregie. Yep. But the problem is that was 2 years ago, and yes, it was a fantastic interview.
And you made a statement in that interview that people needed to stay
and people didn't really listen.
No.
So
we've got
that's
people
the
out
challenge.
there buying
Still happening.
a litre of milk.
60% of all milk sold in Australia today is sold for $1 a litre, and that's paying the dairy farmer about half of what it costs us to produce it. So we cannot sustain our business financially, economically. You know, I tell visitors every time they come for a tour to our farm, yes, this is a family farm. No, this is not a hobby farm. This is a family business. Everything we do has to be able to help us pay the bills at the end of the month, or we cease to exist.
Okay, I don't know what the numbers are for your farm tours, would your farm survive without the tours?
We really would have struggled. You know, it is a paid tour experience. It has become a part of our business model, our business plan. We have diversified into farm tours. We do bottled milk on site now, and we deal directly with retailers.
And did I hear that you're bottling for another farm as well?
Well, that's a sad reality of the message not getting across. When I did that interview with Sunrise 2 years ago, we were bottling milk for a second family farm.
Yes.
We're not able to sell all of our milk, all of our products. We had to let that second family farm go back to their big milk company a year ago. You know, no question the toughest decision I've ever made as a member of the Dennis family, as a business. Yeah. Telling this other family, we can't keep you on. Like, that was devastating for us and for them too. I mean, they took a leap of faith and they come on board with us, and we're just not able to get people to understand the importance of supporting local and enabling us to not just do what we're doing, but to grow and help other farmers. We just haven't been able to grow beyond a single farm model at this stage.
Will you?
I guess I'm a bit of a visionary. You know, will we be able to find a way? I'm still working on some very big picture solutions. My thoughts are not about saving my family farm, although yes, we have to still try and do that. I want to rebuild a system Australia-wide that will benefit farmers in other states of Australia, that will inevitably flow on to consumers in other states in Australia. As a country, Australia, we know we have a clean, green environment compared to many countries around the world, but we also know that we cannot compete on price with the food that we grow. We grow amongst the best quality food in the world, but there's a real cost involved in growing food in Australia. Our land values are much higher, our wages are much higher, our cost of operation.
How does the land values come into it?
So when you're looking at return on investment, if you're looking at purchasing land to grow food on, you have to do your numbers, because if you're buying the land, I mean, unless you're buying it with cash, you've got bank repayments to meet. So you need to be able to make enough profit to meet your monthly instalments with the bank. Yep. Otherwise, you won't last long, and you will default on your instalments or your monthly repayments, and that's when the bank will foreclose, which is happening to a lot of farms today.
In the 70s, like 50 years ago, farmers were wealthy people, is my understanding, my belief. Okay.
So that was more of a perception than a reality. Okay. They were asset rich and cash poor.
That sounds pretty business-like. That's more,
you know, a lot of what I talk about, anyone running small business will connect with what I'm saying when it comes to our issues, because most farms are a small business. Yep. That's what they are. It's just that we're involved in agriculture. So the very big problem we do face today is the level of investment required, not only on land, but on infrastructure, on machinery, and with that level of investment comes a lot of financial pressure. So we're certainly, are we wealthy? Yes, we're sitting on an asset. Do we have discretional money? No, we really struggle. If farmers could be profitable, they would reinvest more money in their farm through their local town or region, and so you have this whole flow-on positive impact to rural Australia. We're seeing a lot of towns just drying up financially because the farmers who used to basically support the town don't have money to spend anymore. The farmers have either gone broke or, they're just...
Yeah, no, that was me looking up at this.
Oh, okay.
It stopped and we could have started again. Right.
So we're not far away, it's just along
it's
here.
Just up here. Well, as we're not far away, what we might do is wind ourselves up. Is there anything that you, when you heard you were coming Smartie tracking, is there anything that you thought we were going to discuss that we haven't talked about?
No, Stephen, I think I think I was just pretty comfortable to go with the flow, with whatever direction you wanted to take it, because I do improvise pretty well. And I guess when you know your stuff, it's like practice, practice, practice.
Yep.
I do get to talk a lot. I think that's why radio announcers love talking to me, because I flow very easily with whatever direction they want to take it.
Yep.
But I'm also strong enough to pull it back in the direction it needs to go if it gets a bit off track. So, which is what I did on that Sunrise interview 2 years ago. And so no, I think it's been a really good chat with you today. You, as you said, you've been a long-time supporter, and a lot of the things have resonated with you.
Excellent. For those people who are watching, how do we get in touch with you?
Well, I'm very active through social media, and Farmer Gregie Facebook page is kind of my main poison. That's where I spend most of my time. I'm very active on Instagram now, also sharing photos of things that I love. I'm a visual person. I love landscapes. I love sunrises and sunsets. I'll be taking photos from the farm, but I also like to take photos of food. I'm going through this phase in my life, and I am saying real food is our medicine, so I'm constantly looking at cooking food from scratch and sharing photos of different things that I'm cooking or making smoothies. And you know, big picture, I'm still working on some things to get the message out there. And you know, I do have a website as well, and I'm just trying to figure out how to streamline and structure. farmergregie.com.au. Wrote my first book, Holy Cow, last year. So Holy Cow has no religious context to it at all. It is simply, I guess, part light entertainment, part autobiography of my childhood on the farm, and the interesting things that we've gone through in developing the robotic dairy and 4-reel milk, and now myself as Farmer Gregie. Cool.
Well, it's been a pleasure. I've had a great time. It's been a really enjoyable
Likewise.
chat.
Thanks, Stephen.
And I hope everything goes from strength to strength.
Well, it won't be for lack of trying. We keep chipping away. Just keep swimming, as Dory used to say in Finding Nemo.
Just keep swimming. And with that, I think we'll finish up.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, mate.